Hi everyone, thanks Keir for the intro. So I'm Piers, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm co-founder of We Make Websites. And we are one of the few Shopify Plus agencies in the UK. We're based in central London. My other co-founder Alex is sitting over there. A few of you have probably heard him talk. Hopefully my talk won't be the same as his classic partner talk that he rolls out every few weeks, but there will be some overlap. Right, so today I'm going to be talking to you about building a web agency, or specifically building our web agency. So kind of basically telling you the story of how it started and how we got to where we are today. And the three kind of key things I'm going to talk about are specialization, scaling, and culture. So first, though, a little bit of history. So this is where it all started. Alex and I met working for Merrill Lynch. We both graduated, I think it was around 2007, did this sort of graduate scheme. I think neither of us knew what we wanted to do. It was one of those kind of go and work for a big corporate straight out of uni. It was quite appealing. They sent us to New York for 10 weeks to train and didn't really do any work. It's like being at uni but getting paid and being put up in a nice apartment. And here we are, day one. Fresh-faced, optimistic, full of hope and wonder. And one of us sporting a particularly majestic haircut. It was a great few weeks. But I think, the sort of reality of the job really settled in when we got back to London, and we were kind of, I don't know what we expected from the job, but it was pretty tedious working for a big corporation. I think this slide sums up my feelings better than I could express. I felt very much like Tim from The Office, like, what am I doing wasting my life at this place? We hatched a plan to escape. I think we met over coffee, and I think we had a shared sort of hatred for the job and wanted to do something else. We weren't quite sure what that was. And it was around about the time when Apple had just launched their App Store. So we thought, let's build an app. And this was our app. And I still think it's a great idea, even though it kind of didn't work. It's for when you're coming out of maybe you're in a place you don't know, like a city you don't know, a town you don't know, coming out of a bar and you want to, it's closing, you want to find somewhere that's still open. Use the app. It shows you all the bars still serving nearby. Great idea. Turns out bars don't really advertise their opening times very well, and it was impossible to get any data. So just didn't work at all. Great story. So instead, thankfully, during this time, we were still working. This was just sort of evening and weekend stuff. But someone asked us to build a website, like a friend of a friend. This was the website, still up there in the wild, unchanged. Looks all right, but nothing great. It was just a little portfolio website. But crucially, they're willing to give us some money to do this, which was quite empowering, selling our first thing. And we thought, we can do this. So over the next weekend, we set about creating We Make Websites. So pick the name, which I think Alex and I probably don't like anymore, but other people seem to, so we're sticking with it. Got a domain name and put up a website a weekend. And this was it. Magnificent, isn't it? Not the best, but it allowed us to get our first few clients. I'm going to go through a bit of history of our website now. This is the next one, about 6 months later. And this time was when we finally thought, right, we've got some clients now, we can quit our job. So that was about 6 months in. So we were finally thinking, right, we're doing this now. And then this is probably maybe 2 years later. We just sort of established ourselves as a web development company, but it was still very much just the two of us. We didn't really have an office or anything like that. I think this is the final iteration of that sort of phase of our company. Just the two of us. We had little Lego Man versions of ourselves there. That's pretty great. We weren't what I'd call a web agency at that point. We were just kind of freelancing as a pair. And that kind of gets us up to the point where I want to start the meat of this talk, which is going from that point where we were kind of a bit all over the place to where we are now, which is kind of like a serious company. So yeah, I want to talk about specialization first, and this was the start of us having a strategy. So at the end of 2012, start of 2013, we found ourselves in this sort of situation where we basically made any kind of website, or even further than that, we'd literally do anything for money, basically. We'd do branding, logo design, marketing services, copywriting. We just said, yeah, we'll do it all. And to give you an idea of the range of things we were doing, this is one thing we did. It's actually quite cool. We built a CMS to allow Channel 4 to control their sort of live tube ads. But then the next day, we might be working on an architecture website or a portfolio website for another company. Next day, we might have been working on this is a website for a non-profit. This had event booking, it had complex membership, bit of e-commerce in there. And we did a whole raft of stuff. We did tiny little business portfolio websites, bigger e-commerce stuff, or like big corporate websites. And we were just all over the place. It was stressful. We didn't know what we were doing, really. We weren't heading in any particular direction. And I think it was very hard to make money. It was very hard to have any sense of any kind of work-life balance. We were working all, evenings, weekends, solidly. It was nuts. So we thought we needed to find a home for ourselves, find a niche. So we specialized. And this was a huge turning point for us. And our focus, we kind of had to discuss what our focus was going to be. And I think we thought, basically, we want to go for the money. So out of everything we'd done, e-commerce was by far the easiest sell, because you could show, I've done it for this other company, I could show a return on investment very easily. We made this website for them, their sales have jumped up X amount, which is much easier than selling, say, a sort of corporate website where the benefit's slightly less tangible. So we shamelessly went for the money. That meant e-commerce, and then beyond that, we specialized in Shopify, which is why I'm here. We'd use all sorts of platforms. Drupal was a big thing for us. We used Shopify a lot. We used Squarespace. We'd used a bit of Magento, WordPress, all sorts of things. And Shopify, certainly all the e-commerce ones, was far and away the one our clients liked the best. Easy to work with. Meant we didn't have to do any back-end stuff, hosted platforms, so we didn't have to worry about all that sort of stuff, which we weren't very good at anyway. It really made sense. What are some of the benefits then? So why did we specialize and why did it work for us? The first thing to say is that we were purposefully off-putting for people outside of our niche. So I think the first thing we did when we made this decision was that our banner on our website changed to be, we're the best Shopify experts in the UK, something like that. And if you didn't know what Shopify was, if you were landing on our website, that would immediately alienate you. On the flip side, if you did know what Shopify was, you'd think, right, these are our guys, which was much more powerful for us. It meant that, some people we weren't going to win as clients, but it didn't matter. We wanted to focus on that. So we'd become experts rather than a sort of broad generalist model we had before. And the great thing for us, or for me in particular, was I used to have to bluff my way through sales meetings. I used to be doing some research before about that particular industry sector, or we hadn't built a charity website with membership before. Like, what do we need to know before the sales meeting? Instead of that, we're selling quite similar things every time now. So I know I'm an expert in Shopify. I'm an expert in e-commerce. I know most of my clients share the similar sort of problems. They have the same sort of questions, and it makes it a much, much easier sell for us. The next point, it focuses your marketing. So really, like beforehand, for us, our marketing was, we'll do anything. We'll make any website for you. And it's impossible to get heard if that's your message. You're up against big other generalist web agencies that've got much more marketing budget. They're going to be seen ahead of you. Whereas if we specialized, there was no one else really doing that in the UK at the time, focusing on Shopify so much, and it really made us stand out. If you're wondering why I've got Will Smith on the screen, it's because this is a screenshot from the film Focus, a critical and commercial flop, as I understand, and it's the best that Google image search could do. It was that or a stock image of a magnifying glass, I think. Right, next up. Oh yeah, so it helps us stand out from a crowd as well. Same sort of point, really. It's much easier for us to stand out as a small company when we've got this niche. And the other thing it helps us with is hiring. So as we've been growing our team, it makes making decisions over, say, front-end developers or designers much easier. If they've got experience in e-commerce, and even better if they've got experience in Shopify, it makes the decision between that candidate and the next one much easier for us. So I feel like I'm probably preaching to the converted here in that I'm in a room full of Shopify experts. So most of you have probably decided to have a niche of Shopify, or maybe do some other things, but a lot of you, I'm sure there's people in here that just do Shopify stuff. But even within that, we decided to have a slightly smaller niche, and that was initially startups. So for us, like Shopify was the perfect platform for them, and at the time, this is kind of before Shopify Plus, so it was really aimed at startups at that time, and it really worked for us. And having that sort of secondary focus allowed us to be a bit sort of more helpful to our clients. Startups all have similar sort of problems. None of them really know about shipping or fulfillment, all that sort of stuff. And in our sales meetings, as well as selling them on us, we could help them out with making us appear more expert in the whole sector. We could offer them advice on if you're looking for fulfillment, we recommend this company, or here's what you need to do to investigate it. So all of that free advice we were able to give helped make that sale. But that wasn't the only option. Here's some stuff we haven't done, or some other niches people have explored and you guys could explore. So picking a vertical, so choosing something like fashion. Again, the benefit there is that all the companies are likely to have the same kind of problems that you can help them with. So even outside of the website, it might be things like helping them with materials management or something like that. These guys have got a nice niche for themselves. I'm sure some of you have seen before. They're Carson, and all they do is Shopify tweaks. So small changes, very well defined. I think it's $65 for a change. And they've just got an incredible process to churn these things out. But that's all they do. They don't do big stores, they don't do anything else like that. So it's a really great niche. This is another one I saw the other day. I thought it was a joke initially. I don't know if anyone else has seen this. But these guys are going to put us all out of business because they do Shopify setups for free, literally for free. But they're basically churning out loads, I think, and getting affiliate revenue. That seems to be their model. Interesting niche, probably not one I'd go after, but yeah, just a good example of specialization. So at this point in time, we'd chosen our niche, startup, Shopify, e-commerce. We wanted to define what our audience looked like a bit better. So who was our ideal client? So these are some of our clients. This is Snowden Flood. She was a designer maker, kind of starting out designing illustrated products. You can see some of her plates in the background there. These guys were a startup doing underwear. Lauren and Marissa. This is Bonnie from Miso Tasty. Their startup was miso delivery. Comes in a packet, fits through letterbox, subscription service. Really interesting companies, great to work for. And this was kind of how we defined our perfect client at the time. It's changed quite a lot recently, but this was our initial kind of model for a client. London-based, so it made it easier sell for us because we can get in a room with them. Startup or small business, as I mentioned. Already aware of Shopify, again, makes the sale much, much easier. Wanting to sell physical products online, that we probably could have included digital in there, but having a bit more of a focus helped us. Physical products, you like to get better photography, and it aligned better with our design sort of aesthetic or our design preferences, and most likely design focus as well. We weren't the ideal agency for if you were selling like spanners or washing machines. Like fashion and homewares and lifestyles suited the way we designed better. So we had this ideal client basically, and that made marketing to them much easier because we could really focus our advice on these particular people. So once we had our audience defined, we set about on a way of making ourselves visible to these people. And content marketing was how we did that. So content marketing has been massive for us. It's another kind of pivotal thing in how our agents, in the success of our agency. Our blog is something we're very proud of. It's now getting 50,000 merchants a month reading it. And all of our content is just advice. We're writing about things that we think our target audience would find interesting. And over time, that shifted from sort of startups to kind of bigger companies. But it was trying to answer all the questions that we got in sales meetings. So we'd write articles about, what's the best Shopify plan? What is the sort of shipping, how do you sort out shipping if you're a startup? I think this one's about influencers on Instagram. All the important stuff that startups and small businesses were interested in. And then the idea was basically, once they've been receiving all this advice, they subscribe to our newsletter, they're following us on social media, etc. Once they've reached the point where they might be interested in buying, we're at the top of their mind. They've been reading our stuff and kind of getting all this free information for ages. And when they're ready to part with some money, again, we're the guys. So we've extended that to doing a London Shopify meetup. Our last one had 150 people. It's mainly merchants coming along to listen to people talk. And again, it's just free advice. So we're getting retailers in to talk about how the successes they've had on Shopify and how they've run their business. We're getting people talking about fulfillment or photography or all the sort of bits or the moving parts of running a business on Shopify. Similarly, my business partner Alex does a lot of talks. Here he is talking at a fashion event. Similar sort of thing, really just giving out free advice on running an e-commerce business. And we're trying to spread it out even further and use different channels now. So we're making more video, setting up a podcast, and all this is sort of in the works for next year. So we created our niche, and it was working. We were getting a steady stream of business. It was profitable. We were in a much more controlled place than we were before. We weren't having to work evenings or weekends. Our sales pipeline was much more solid, and we were in a great place. So the next thing we wanted to do was scale it up. At this point in time, it's still just Alex and I. So part 2 of my talk is talking about scaling and growing the agency. So hiring for growth. I remember when we first thought about hiring, Alex and I had a bit of a discussion or an argument about who we should hire. I think because he was doing a lot of sales and I was doing all of the design and development, I wanted another developer, basically, so I didn't have so much work to do. But rightly, Alex persuaded me of this, we needed to hire someone for growth first. So we hired Rob, employee number 1, there he is, and he was joining just to do marketing. So he was going to write all this blog content, help with all our social and stuff like that. And it was definitely the right decision because it accelerated our growth so quickly that we were able to hire the designer developer that I wanted within a couple of months. The top of our sales funnel was basically getting filled with leads, and it was great. So it was a much better solution than doing it my way around, which we would have risked not having enough work and being overstaffed. So the next thing we do, and this is something we're really focused on at We Make Websites, and that is just making everything into a process. Alex loves processes, like constantly going on about it to our staff. And I think the most important sort of process change we made was in our proposal system. So previously, in the kind of first few years of the business, before this specialization, we had an inquiry form on the website or a phone number on the website. If someone wanted to work with us, they'd fill that in. Maybe we'd give them a call. We would have a meeting with them, work out all their requirements, and then write a totally bespoke proposal for them, which is a fairly standard approach. But it was time-consuming, and we wanted to do something different. And having specialized, we sort of realized that not every project's the same, because every project's kind of different, and certainly the aesthetics of all the websites we build are very different. But functionally, they're pretty similar. Like most of the startups in our perfect audience, like they wanted the same thing. So it meant we could standardize our proposals. So now, when someone fills in an inquiry form, the proposal is automatically generated behind the scenes. And then Alex and Rob would go in and put some niceties in, a few specifics about the client, and send it off. So within a few minutes, the potential client had a proposal, they had a price, they had a time frame, they had lots of good stuff about how great we are and how great Shopify is, and that was quite impressive to people. And we had loads of feedback saying it's amazing that you're getting these big proposals so quickly to us. I think they didn't realise perhaps that it was sort of automated and not kind of so tailored to them. And it meant that when we did get them in for a meeting or had the next contact, they already knew the price, they already knew the timescales, and the sale was just convincing them that we were experts in what we do, and it made everything so much slicker. So yeah, this is the proposal system, not a hugely interesting slide. Next up, Asana. So this has been good for us. I mean, not particularly Asana, but any project management system. We use it for all of our other processes. So onboarding clients, the actual management of the projects, yes, but also for things like when we have a new hire. We've got a list of everything that needs to happen. When someone leaves, we've got a list of everything that needs to happen. When, I don't know, all our content marketing, our content plan lives in here. And everything is kind of, it's not just in someone's head. Anyone in the team can look at this stuff and get it done. And a lot of this kind of process stuff facilitates growth or promotes growth. But a lot of it is also just keeping us under control as we're growing. Because I think when we first started growing, it was very apparent that things can easily get out of control when it's just kind of Alex and I's head. So another thing that's been useful in our growth is making partnerships. And this is, there's a couple of partners of ours in the room. One of our first partners that we still work with now was an SEO agency. Reload Digital, they're great guys. We work with them all the time on our projects. We share leads, they'll send work our way, we'll send work their way. We go in on projects together, we'll often have them in the room with us when we're doing a sales meeting. It's a great partnership. It allows us to stay niche and focused, but also kind of have a slightly broader offering for when we need to. Patchworks, Luke from Patchworks, somewhere in here, over there. These guys are systems integrators. So they help us integrate with ERP systems, basically, which at the start, when we were kind of startup focused, not something we would have needed. But now we're much further on, where we're dealing with big clients. They all need this stuff, and Luke comes into a meeting, makes me look very good, helps us sell all this stuff. But there are loads of other partnership avenues that you could take or that we have taken. So one we did initially was bigger web agencies. So partnering up with them, they basically gave us all their kind of stuff they didn't want. It was like work that was too small for them. That was a really good way of getting leads in. Complementary agencies, so similar to SEO, you've got marketing, PR, other systems integrators. Again, for sharing leads or making your offering a bit more complete. Payment gateways, this one's no good for generating leads typically, but getting a bit of affiliate kickback. If you're installing payment gateways all the time for your clients, you may as well get some money back from it. ERP systems, partnering up with them, so people like NetSuite and Brightpearl, etc. If you're setting up all this stuff for your clients, may as well partner up with them, get some money out of it. And something we're doing a bit more now is working with private equity and VC firms, because they've got all of these companies that they're trying to accelerate the growth of. Often that means new websites, new e-commerce, replatforming, all that sort of stuff. So if we can get in with those guys, it's a great source of leads. So that brings me nicely onto my next slide, which is recurring revenue. So this has been a big focus in the last couple of years for us, because having recurring revenue gives you a stable platform to plan. An agency model is quite spiky in its sort of peaks and troughs of, feast and famines, the sort of classic thing you say about an agency. So having recurring revenue is trying to level that out. It's been really useful for us, but still something where I don't feel like we've got enough of it. So things like Shopify partnerships, great for that. Affiliate revenue we get from that's useful, and the affiliate revenue from things like payment gateways, etc. But the best thing for us has been kind of ongoing retainers with our clients. So most of our clients now, we try and encourage them to sort of get onto a retainer with us to allow us to constantly optimize and improve their site, because as I'm sure as you all know, building a website, You can't just build it and then put it up there and never touch it again. It needs constant attention to keep it ticking over and keep it converting well. So that's a huge focus for us, and it's really helped with our growth. Doubling our prices. A lot of people say double your prices, or not necessarily double them, but increase them. I was a bit skeptical about this. I'm the risk-averse one. Alex is the just do it, gung-ho approach. So we decided one day to double our prices. It totally works. Like, yeah, you get fewer inquiries, but then you get a sort of better quality of client almost. If they're willing to spend more money, they're kind of a bit more serious about their business. And it really worked for us. Allows us to spend potentially more time on projects, produce bigger and better work. So what's all of this scaling stuff done for our growth? In the last 3 years, these are kind of roughly how things have progressed. So increased our revenue by 6 times, recurring revenue by 15 times. That's a really important metric for us and something we're trying to really ramp up. And we're now at 15 staff. So we're not massive. I don't know how good this is really, but for us, we're very proud of where we've got to. I think it's something I'd like to see continue over the next 3 years. And the other thing is, it's enabled us to work with sort of much bigger and interesting clients. Like, these are some of the things we've done recently. So last week we launched Penguin Books' new store. The National Portrait Gallery, we launched their store, I think 3 weeks ago. Worked with The Economist on an ongoing basis. Like Finisterre is a really cool fashion brand we're working with at the moment. Loads of interesting stuff. And I feel like 3 years ago, if you'd have told me I'd been doing Penguin Bookstore, yeah, I'd have laughed at you. I think I wouldn't have believed it. And it's great now we're doing this stuff because I can tell my mum, yeah, we've done Penguin Bookstore, and she knows what that is versus, all the stuff I was doing 3 years ago, and she would just stare at me blankly. Right, so that was the end of part 2. Culture is slightly more woolly than the other parts. Like, it's quite hard it's the kind of thing I thought I'd never really have to pay much attention to when we were growing our agency. But it became kind of apparent that as we grew, like, it was sort of easy to fall into or slip into a bad culture, and it would slightly negatively affect what we were doing. It's been quite a key point to developing, like, our team, I suppose. And defining values was one of the things we've been working on over the past year, and sticking to them. And again, it's something I thought I would never do. It feels like a very big corporate thing to do. Like, you see values. I mean, I think this next slide probably illustrates it better. These are the corporate values of Merrill Lynch, right? I mean, they're kidding. Integrity for an investment bank, responsible citizenship, just nuts. I remember when we started, we got given T-shirts with this written on the back, and it's just on posters all over the place. And like, absolutely no one who works there believes this stuff. So we were very conscious not to go down that route, and we got all of our staff involved in making these values. Here they are. I won't talk through all of them, but I'm going to refer back to them in a minute. Like I said, we made sure the team bought into all this stuff. But I think defining them is just the sort of easy bit. It's kind of implementing them and sort of living with them and making them work for us. So we wanted our values also to kind of help us make decisions. So we can refer back to them if we're thinking about, do we want to take this project on? Do we want this client? Is this hire the right person? Do they fit our culture and our values? I want to talk about implementing the values next. First thing to talk about is measuring client satisfaction. And we've kind of always done this a bit, like at the end of a project, maybe asking people, I don't know, was that any good? But answer's always yes, obviously. But now we're doing it much more formally. So end of a project, an automated email comes out of our system with a net promoter score. So another part of our process that we've implemented. And if we're doing good work, we're aligning to our values of helping our clients win, we should be getting 9s and 10s and getting these net promoters. It's important to realise you can't please everyone. This sort of aligns to our value of keeping it real or being open and honest. And if it's not working with a client, that can have a hugely negative impact on your team. And it doesn't just affect that project, it kind of seeps out of that project into the rest of the team. So yeah, bad clients can really sort of bring the whole team down. So for us, fire them, move on. That's our advice. Improving and developing our team. So this is all about improving our processes, the overall standard of our work, all the websites we produce, and also developing our staff. So it aligns with our goals of being top of our game and sort of taking ownership of our work. So one of the things we do, and this is super useful, is post-project reviews. So making sure that after every project, we don't just move straight on to the next one. We all sit in a room, everyone that's been involved, and talk about what's been good, what's been bad, celebrate the success a bit. Also talk about how it can be improved. And even the best projects, there's kind of issues that, things that could have gone better and that you can learn from. So we do this thing called 5 whys. So look, for every issue, we ask 5 questions basically, trying to get down to the sort of core issue. So it might be client was unhappy on launch. Why? Because the menu had a bug on iOS devices. Why? We didn't test it properly. Why? We were rushing for the launch. Why? The client was pushing us for an unrealistic launch date. And the issue there might have been scheduling. We didn't have enough time, or it might be, I don't know, we should have been firmer and pushed back on the client, saying, this is unrealistic, because of other things that have happened in the project. We need to delay it, and it's going to be damaging to your brand if we don't. So it's hugely useful, all this stuff, to kind of learn what we're doing well, what needs to improve. One-to-ones, this is another good thing we do. Make sure that Alex and I have a one-to-one with every member of staff every month, and this is to help us partly because we want to hear what they've got to say about. They have ideas about process improvements or things that are going well, things that aren't going well that they perhaps wouldn't raise otherwise. Super useful for the staff themselves because they're getting to kind of have a bit more impact than perhaps otherwise would. But we're also making sure we're developing them. Have they got the right training they need? Do they have all the tools they need? Do they feel like they're enjoying their job? Are they getting what they want out of it? Where are they heading? So yeah, that's really, really useful for making us better. Designing code reviews, this kind of falls into the same thing. So our tech lead and our design lead will constantly do this, making sure that our code's up to scratch, making sure we're educating our staff. This code could be refactored. Next time you do this, you'd probably be better off doing it this way. Similarly, design reviews, making sure we're aligning to our value of designing to convert. It's not just about making it look nice and aligning with the brand. It's also about, how can this product page convert better for our client? And celebrating success. This is a lovely shot of us at a Mexican restaurant. It's fairly early on, I think. It's just important to take some time out. Make sure you celebrate the good work you're doing. I'm bad at this. I get bogged down in, I've just got so much to do, work, next project. So it's really important to force yourself to take time out and celebrate all this stuff. Take a team out. You might be a team building team, might go and have a party somewhere. All that sort of stuff's really important. And leading on from that, we do a sort of rip-off of Google's 20... Oh, is the mic gone? No. Rip-off of Google's 20% time, 10% time. Catchy. So half days, halfway through Fridays, everyone stops doing what their day job, and we're currently doing this thing called Store Wars, which is we've split the team in 2, and each team has got to build a Shopify store and run a Shopify business. So we've got them doing a fairly simple dropship business. I think one of them's doing beard oil, and the other one is doing, they were doing protein, but now they're doing phone cases, like print-on-demand phone cases. And it's great. It's good for team building, getting people working with one another that perhaps wouldn't. But beyond that, it's really helping our staff see what our clients have to go through, things like fulfillment and shipping and kind of customer service and all that sort of stuff that they perhaps wouldn't see. And it helps the guys who work in our marketing team get a bit more involved in setting up Shopify, and the guys who set up Shopify all the time getting involved in the marketing. So yeah, it's hugely beneficial, and it's something we want to push a bit more. It's quite hard to make the time for it, but we're sort of forcing ourselves to. And all of this stuff has kind of helped shape our culture. It's kind of steering the ship to where we want it to go. Trying to make us better at what we do, trying to make us happier, and basically more productive, more efficient. So that kind of brings me sort of to the end of what I want to talk about, really. And thank you firstly for listening. I hope there's been some useful stuff in there. I feel slightly fraudulent in that, to me, it feels like we're very much at the start of our agency. Like, there's so much more for us to be doing, and all of this stuff, is constant improvements. But hopefully there's been something useful in there for you guys. And yeah, I'd love to talk to anyone later on. I love talking about Shopify businesses and what people are doing for their agencies and all sorts. You can learn huge amounts from that. So yeah, come and grab me later on. But yeah, I think now Q&A, is that right, Keir?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
Great.
Big hand for Piers.